Hello, how are we? Um, I always start my talks by saying Okay, I'm actually here today because I've been trying to put together an article for a long time about my findings relating to synthetic biology. Um, as a lot of you know, I've written extensively and spoken extensively about micro strands in the environment. Uh, and that has led me down a path where, well, let's just say, I've been in the situation where I've been sleeping inside a nice sleeping bag, like EMF and everything, trying to protect myself. And it's resulted not in an improvement, but it seemed to have gotten like worse. And I was trying to figure out, and I was always finding these strands. So I'd go and I'd shower and I'd be all clean and I'd jump into my bedding and stuff and I'd be fine. And then, halfway through the night, I'd start, the vibrations would all start up again, right? Through my feet, through my legs, up through the guts and everything. And so I had to sort of reevaluate what is going on here. And that has since led me to the realization that what I'm getting on my skin is indeed coming out of the skin. And these are these black fibers, which I believe to be made up of collagen and keratin. Okay, so I'm just going to present to you today what I found and try to give you a theory on what I believe to be happening here. Because I think this is happening to a lot of people. I've sent out recently on social media trying to get people to have a look for themselves. And so the process that I give is quite simple. It's a cotton ball, and then you get yourself some alcohol and you spray the cotton ball like so. And then you take your arm and it's 3 inches up, 3 inches back. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17, 18, 19, 20, up and back 20 times. And then you get this. No, it doesn't look like anything, right? But what happens when I put this under the microscope is it actually looks discolored, by the way. And that doesn't matter whether I've showered or not. I can shower and I scrub in the shower. Like I'm like using a loofah over my entire body. And by the morning, that will be there. And I'm not sleeping in dark sheets. I'm not in cotton. I can be naked inside a white sheet and encased, and I'll still have those fibers in the morning. And what do they look like? I should have probably set this up first. So let's show you what they look like, shall we? Can I share my screen here? Where are we? Da, 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 da. You'll have to bear with me here. Yep. Save. All right. So now I'm not sure if that's working. Share screen, allow. So I'm just going to share my screen with you. All right. Whoa, psychedelic, right? Welcome, welcome to the tunnel. All right, so we've got here. I'm just going to try and find you what I generally see when I wipe my skin with. Yeah, so this is quite typical here. All right, so they're nasty little looking things, aren't they? This is very typical. So they're little. So, and what I find is if I leave it for a longer time, they get longer. So if I shower and then after a few hours, say 3 hours, that's probably 3 hours. This might look like something after about 4 hours, and so it's like you expel them or you clean them out. So the way this works is they're not just growing straight out of the skin. They're actually being expressed out of. They're being expressed out of. They're being created. They're being built by. Let me just remove this. And how do I do that? Oh yeah, stop share. So they're being built by the bacteria. So let me give you a bit of history. Okay, so essentially, what my theory is that basically our remote neural monitoring and voice to skull can actually be implemented through a modified synthetic biology, modified synthetic bacteria, which once infected, your body will produce. It's an engineered synthetic biology, by the way, will produce it's being infected with a modified magnetotactic bacteria. Now, what is magnetotactic? Magnetotactic is this amazing phenomenon with certain bacterias that will actually sequester or harvest iron out of its environment and then reform it into magnetite. Now, magnetite has been in the. I'll get into this a bit further, but what magnetite allows you to do is create a very receptive cells within the body, receptive to RF frequencies. And then the thing about these bacteria as well is they can also get into the brain. They can pass the blood-brain barrier. And so these organisms can respond to radio frequency, which could possibly enable neural monitoring and voice transmission into the brain. Okay, so magnetotactic bacteria, MTB for short, they call it, basically produce magnetosomes, which are nano-sized iron crystals or magnetite. So, I mean, you can't get much better for conductivity and receptivity of radio frequency, and that they respond to magnetic fields like electromagnetic frequency. The synthetic biology enables genetic engineering of bacteria to enhance magnetosome production and control. So the bacteria could be modified in order to produce this naturally within the body. Harvest your iron out of your blood, mind you. And this is why anemia, pale complexion and that sort of stuff is quite common, I think. And lack of, feeling, tired and all that sort of stuff can all be explained by this mechanism. The delivery vector could be many things. Could be through bacteria. Can be spread in many ways. You could put it out. You could put it in food. You could put it in the air. You could put it anywhere. Bacteria is, as long as the conditions are right. It's not too hot, not too cold. Then you can put it in various things. And there's been a lot of research into this stuff, especially through the Defence Force, and it goes back decades. All right, so technology has advanced significantly since the early 2000s, which sort of goes in line with the uptake of Morgellons disease. And so what is Morgellons disease? It has a close relationship to Lyme disease. Lyme disease, the bacteria is called Borrelia burgdorferi, named after the guy who found it, Burgdorferi. He actually he discovered it. His name was Willie Burgdorfer, at the Rocky Mountain Labs in 1982. Burgdorfer was a Cold War bioweapons scientist recruited in 1951 who weaponized arthropod vectors. So we've had this in the news recently. Ticks everywhere. I've seen it on Facebook. People showing these photos, these ticks that they're finding. They reckon that they've been dumped on them, or there's been deliberate releases of these. And this isn't the first time that intel agencies and defense have been um, implicated in dumping of various parasites or insects, yeah, as a vector to spread disease. And that's quite disgusting, isn't it? So, yeah. So, Fort Detrick Arthropod Weapons Program, which was 1953, engineered ticks to inject pathogens. What do you know? And these ticks are known to carry this bacteria. Now, it's not a stretch to think if they're actually looking to harm the populace that they might revisit some of their old tricks. Like, I'm not saying this is the one reason and the reason how target individuals are all experiencing the same thing. I think there is synthetic biology. I think that, which I'll get into in a second. But I think there also is nanotech angles, and I'll also get into that in a second. So where do we go from here? Yeah, so when Bedorfer, the guy who found this bacteria and was working with it as a bioweapons scientist, um, they look on his deathbed. He was quoted saying, "I didn't tell you everything," on his deathbed relating to the origins of Lyme disease. Isn't that interesting? And so where were we now? That was he. So he discovered in '82. I think he passed. It was just before 2000. And so genetic manipulation capability. B. bedorferi can be genetically engineered via electroporation and shuttle vectors. Robust genetic tools now exist for creating modified strains. Now, why am I talking about that? Because bedorferi, in its raw form, doesn't exhibit magnetotactic behavior. Magnetotactic behavior is the sequestering of iron from the blood in order to produce magnetite crystals as a natural process. There are magnetotactic bacteria that will just naturally do this. They naturally grab the iron from their host and will convert it into magnetite crystals. Now, this is extremely significant, especially with the research into using magnetite crystals injected into people in order to produce a remote neural monitoring of the brain activity, which has been done, is documented, and is in peer-reviewed research. When was that done? 2015 or something like that? All right, cool. Let's go to the next bit. Let's look at the timeline. Okay. Morgellons. The first, so emerged in 2001, 2002, but as anyone educated will tell you, there were signs of it before then. Okay, so the first public cases, so Mary Leitow's son in Florida, who had all these fibers, and she looked into it and she was told that she was crazy. So there's been this consistent denial from the authorities, and from our health authorities. This is how high up it goes. Of course, it's very reminiscent of the AIDS epidemic. It's very reminiscent of the COVID epidemic. We've seen this same pattern. There's a pattern that they use, and that is when they get caught out, they deny. No, nothing to see here. No, you're crazy, right? So. And that's very much the consistency. That's why they brought out Morgellons disease and called it and even in 2006, which is what I'll get to in a moment. So let's look at that timeline. The uptick of all the Morgellons disease, but prior to 80s, nothing hardly. There'd be a few cases, or maybe before then. This wasn't a common thing. And I can show you some, I'll show you figures in a second. What does it coincide with? It coincides with wireless technologies, right? When did all our phones start to happen? 2G, Wi-Fi standardization, smart meters, all that sort of shit. That was 2000, and so it coincides with that. late 90s into the 2000s, right? Now, so 97 to 98% of Morgellons patients test positive for Borrelia burgdorferi, which is the particular bacteria strain. But the CDC in 2006, so knowing that they found it, this is a bacteria, we can find it, we can replicate it, we can go and test your skin and you've got it on you, right? But yet in 2006, the CDC, the great old CDC, we can trust, right? They're the Center for Disease Control. Dismissed it despite biological evidence, calling it a delusional parasititis. Oh, you've got a delusional parasititis. So, I mean, I don't know about you, but if someone's holding a gun and it's smoking, and someone's dead on the ground, do you go, no, it's a delusional shooting? Like it's obvious, right? I mean, you put two and two together. Australia's treatment of Lyme disease and this particular strain is also completely no, we don't have any, I don't know what you're talking about. You must be crazy. Like, you can't get this here, apparently. Well, I've got strands coming out of my fucking skin. Excuse my language. I just think, like, when it comes down to it, evidence needs to trump bull BS. We need to be firm on that. And so I intend to actually, attempt to get testing on this and actually get it confirmed. It's difficult though through our current mechanisms, unfortunately, because, excuse me, it's difficult because of the way that the health establishment, the higher ups there, the ones that set policy, have wrangled this to make sure that they still cast this psychosis thing onto it, and it's just got this air of like a psychiatric illness instead of it being, I don't know about you, but if you're finding bacteria, you can test for it in a lab, then this isn't psychosis. There is no psychosis. It's been associated with that. Why? Maybe that's what I'm trying to tell you. I mean, its relationship to magnetite production, if it's possible that they have weaponized it and created a strain that allows magnetite production throughout the body and the brain, which would explain most of the symptoms that TIs experience on a day-to-day basis. All right, cool. Let's go to the next step, shall we? Oh, yeah. So essentially in Australia, the treatment of it's like, oh, no, it doesn't happen here. It can't happen here, even though there's people who are experiencing it. John Hopkins, they send you back to John Hopkins. Now, John Hopkins was very questionably involved in the pandemic, and essentially, very much complicit, I think, in that little farce that we all just went through. And so that doesn't give me a lot of confidence in their ability to deal with this particular issue as well, if you know what I mean. All right, part 4. So let's go through what the possibilities are here. I'm suggesting that there is bacteria that can produce sequester iron out of your system and produce magnetite crystals throughout the body. How does it work? It goes into you and you get infected. It's extremely resilient. It basically produces strands out of your skin. So it affects the dermal layer. The thicker your skin, this is why people have vibrating feet. This is what my belief. The reason why the feet are always vibrating is because that's the thickest area of skin on your body, right? Is the soles of your feet, right? You've got a lot of skin there, right? So what is it doing? It's taking keratin and collagen, naturally occurring within the skin is keratin and collagen, both mildly piezoelectric. That is, that they under strain will produce electricity, And if you apply an electrical field to them, they will flex. Now how can you apply an electrical field? Well, through electromagnetic frequency, you could do that. And so what you could actually produce with these fibers, which are like ribbons, that are all fibers that are being produced naturally out of this bacteria. So that's what they do. They produce strands, and they just continuously produce, and that forms not straight out of the skin. They exude from the skin because they're under the skin. They're inside the skin. They're inside that skin layer, under the skin. Like what Klausy said, surveillance under the skin. Okay, so when you shower and that, they come out. They open, the pores will open, and all those fibers will start to come out. But just rubbing your hand across your skin, you'll actually have them come out as well. And that's why this little test, and then looking at it under a microscope, will always yield you more and more of these things because they're just constantly pumping out, right? There's certain things you can do, which I'll get into later, to make these less prevalent so that your body doesn't produce as much, and also a way to treat this stuff, which it does have a treatment regime. Unfortunately, it's hard to get because the doctors will always lean towards committing you, stating that you're just imagining it, even if you walk in there and show them, which is really unfortunate because that's drummed into them. And so let's go further to this. Oh yeah, so the resilience of this stuff is really an important thing to cover as well. So what do you got? You've got a bacteria. Generally, if you've got a bacterial infection, you can take antibiotics. It'll kill the infection, right? The thing about the way a lot of this bacteria works is it will create something called a biofilm. This is the synthetic biology equivalent to like a hydrogel, I guess you could say. So what have you got? It's like it layers itself. So it gets the collagen and stuff, and it produces so much of it in layers. And that's why some of us will feel little lumps in the skin, under the skin. That's what I believe that is. And you'll sometimes get scab, like that might come up in scabs, it might come up in welts or stuff like that. So what's happening is layering, a heap of this bacteria is colonizing and creating like a little fort, right, where the bacteria can live in, and it'll sit there and pump out of that. Now, when you take antibiotics, it'll go through the system because it's coming into your bloodstream, and it'll go and proliferate through the system. But those areas that are colonized, the bacteria will pull back into. So even if you kill everything around it, it'll pull back into those biostructures within the body. And that makes it extremely resilient. This is like, instead of going down the path of antibiotic resistance, we're looking at another mechanism, which is like the best way to explain it is like a little fort. They're building little forts within your body, right, where it can just retract into, and then you might kill everything around it. But they all run back into the fort and they stay in there, and then they wait until, is everything okay, and then they come back out again. So this makes it extremely resilient. Which brings me to the next point, which is like vaccines. What's the other mechanism? Okay, you've got an entity, they want to get full control over the body. They want to be able to see everything. They want to be able to see your mind, monitor you by surveillance, and also modulate. So magnetoparticles throughout the body is just a perfect way to do that. Okay, whether or not they're injected or whether or not they're produced. But production has one very clear advantage, doesn't it? And there's evidence to say that maybe they were trying to infect everyone and use this natural form, synthetic biology form, in order to produce this effect across the populace so that they had full mind reading and writing throughout the populace. And I think a very large, I reckon there's more people infected with this crap than what they know, but the numbers are huge. Let me give you the numbers. Okay, just in the United States, Yeah, Lyme disease, this bacteria, how much? This should be an epidemic. This is an epidemic. 476,000 cases per year of Lyme disease. Let me say that again. 4,700, sorry, 476,000. Is that what I said originally? 400, and that's 500,000 people per year in the United States alone. 500,000 people. Now, United States are at 270, are they 270 million or something? So 470, 500,000 a year. Let me show you the maps. I may as well just show you the map. Share screen. Let's go. Allow. There we are. All right, hopefully you can see what I'm seeing. Do you see what I'm seeing? And off we go. All right, so have a look at this. All right, so here we are in 1995 for Lyme disease, which is this bacteria. Is it a modified version though? Look at how much was here. Okay, let's just go up here. Oh, 2010. So 5 years later, we've gone from this to this. Right? And then 2023. Whoa, what's happened? Wow, we've gone from this to this. Now, I don't know about you, but this looks like a slowly decaying limb, doesn't it? Let's go through it again. 95, 2010, 2023. I think we've got ourselves an epidemic. Don't you? All right, now I have to get back to here. Let me just stop sharing. So, where does this leave us? So, a bacteria, something that's got a history of potential weaponization going back decades. The guy who dies on his deathbed, he's saying, "Oh, I didn't tell you everything about it." A CDC that denies that it's a problem, denies that it's existing, even in the face of an actual bacteria that they can test in 97 to 98% of people who have Morgellons. I don't know about you, but it seems pretty obvious to me. So let's go. High precision, self-organizing, disadvantage. Okay, so yeah, let's get graphene into everyone's heads. Oh, we just inject them with the vaccines. They've got the graphene. It goes up into the brain. We can read their brain, no problem. All right, that's great. This is an unnatural element. Graphene doesn't usually exist in the body. The body will try and push it out. Like they've come up with ways to stop that, which is the work that who did that? Oh yeah, so there was a couple of scientists and they got a Nobel Prize for it, which is lipid nanoparticles, which is the technology, which is to wrap your elements, your filthy Trojan horse elements up in an oily layer, and then you just inject them into you, and then they go up through the blood-brain barrier, and bam, you've got it into the brain. Yes, they're doing that as well. I mean, obviously. It's been found, and I've seen diagrams that show where this all collects, and they can make it stick in certain areas based on the shape of the particle and so on. It's all science. It's all in papers. But what's the advantage of using a bacterium to do the same thing? And what are the differences? So magnetoparticles throughout the body, being produced by bacteria that permeates the entire body and skin, dermis, right through to the brain. You're not going to get rid of it easily. It permeates the body. Okay, antibiotics will get rid of it, like I said, but biofilms make sure that it stays resident, and that you need to eliminate those biofilms as well. All right, not saying it's not possible. I'm just saying it's a lot. It's not easy. All right, so that's the first part. Second to that, what else is what's the disadvantage with graphene is your body will expel it eventually. Your body will push that stuff out. And that's why they have to keep jabbing people. And that's why they have to keep you like maybe spraying and all that sort of stuff. So I think they're using both mechanisms. I think they're using the spray mechanism to spray the graphene. I think they're using the magneto bacterial route as well. I think synthetic biology is probably one of the most under spoken about, and for that reason, I think it's more likely that it's actually more prevalent than what people think. And I think the way to test that is to do your rub test just like that, back and forth. Look at that under a microscope, just a cheap microscope. I spent $100 on mine, and you look at that under the microscope, you'll see those black strands. Now, they're not landing on me. They're not coming from my clothes. I've done all that. I've done this for years. They are coming out of the skin. They're coming out of the skin. So this shit will form under the skin, and then when you rub it, it'll come out. All right? As you rub it, back and forth, back and forth, back and forth. It's coming out. It's always coming out. So I can sit there and rub my skin, and I can see these fibers coming. If I put the right light, I can see them. They're the size of dust. They're micro-sized. You need a magnifier. You need probably anything from 500 to 1,000 to 1,200x. Will give you a very clear view of them. All right, cool. I'm not gonna. And I've picked so I've done a previous video where I thought they were being sprayed, and they're somehow ending up in my bed. I'm like, they're moving them in the air somehow. Like maybe they use static or some shit. No, that's coming out of the body, and I've picked them up with a magnet. So what does that tell you? Magnetite, magnets. That's why I can pick it up with a magnet. So even if it's got trace amounts of this magnetite, you've got a strong enough magnet, and it's not acting paramagnetic. So, but I think when it's colder, you'll be able to pick them up easier. Whereas when they're warm, they may not actually attract. And then there's also the volumes of them. How big are they, to be attracted? And whether the paramagnetic affects their ability to be modulated in the body, I'm not sure. But yeah, worth looking at. All right, so what do we got? B2K could be produced by this magnetite-loaded collagen fibers in the nasal passage, so growing inside here. Coupled with RF radiation, the magnetite oscillates in RF fields, generating electrical fields. These fields are in the ears as well, of course. These fields generate voltage-gated ion channels in the neurons. The olfactory nerve connects directly to the auditory cortex. And then your auditory cortex acts as an electromagnetic resonant cavity. And then the result is subjective hearing of voices, right? The old radio in the head, the old radio head. All right. Okay, worsening. So your symptoms are worse, obviously, around your Wi-Fi, your cell towers, your 5Gs, your phones, da-da-da-da-da. They could all interact with these fibers, right? And that's why my H2O2 treatment, which I've talked about, up the nose with H2O2 or hydrogen peroxide, very recommended still. It works for me. I'll tell you a bit more about treatments coming on. All this is getting long. But that's where I'm at now. Oh yeah, I wanted to tell you about an experience I had, which was quite crazy, where I woke up one night and this stuff was crawling. This is going back months ago. As when I was really severely infected. I think I was producing a lot, and it was in the warmer months, and so maybe the warmer months things get exacerbated. Like you grow more of these fibers because the bacteria loves the heat. Mind you, it'll die if you can get it up to 40 or just over 40 degrees for more than an hour or something. Yeah, so saunas might be useful. All right, so where am I going from here? And so I woke up and I felt this crawling electricity on my face that I always used to, and I went like this. I went slap across my face like this, and I was in a dark room, and I went like slap, and I saw all these sparks go over my face. This explains why. Because the magnetite crystals, when you stress them, and it's piezoelectric collagen plus the magnetite, would produce a yellow spark, which is what I saw, yellow sparks. So scientifically, that's actually extremely feasible. The stress of when they collided, so and they're on the skin, would actually produce rubbing, which would actually produce sparks. Right, when you get a piezoelectric reaction, it could produce sparks. And so I've had that happen, and that explains why. All right, let's get to treatments, shall we? I still swear by the H2O2 up the nose. It reduces my, what do you call it? Chatterbox by around 80%. So that's actually not too bad. And when it gets loud again, I just use it again. So instead of telling you to use it twice a day, use it once a week, use it 3 times a week. I reckon for most people, 3 times a week at the most. Sometimes you won't need to do it in a week because it's effective. And I've got it to a point now with my other treatments that it seems to be nearly not. I can hardly hear this. It's so faint, and I haven't had that issue for a while. And when I do the same thing. Hydrogen peroxide up the nose, 1, 2, 3, and then head back 30 seconds. Let it run down. 3%, food grade only. Swear by it. Put it in the ears, let it sit for 5 minutes. You can do that as well, 1 on each ear, but this is the main vector. You can put DMSO beforehand, DMSO up the nose, and let it sit for a while, and then blow it all out. Like within the hour, do the H2O2. Don't put them together; they'll get hot, and it's not great to do in the nose. But yeah, let it 15 minutes at least after you've done the DMSO, and then that'll help it soak into all those regions through here, and it'll help break up all. And the DMSO also kills the bacteria, and it also breaks down biofilms. So if you've got biofilm buildup, then that's the best way to do it. DMSO plus H2O2. So what are you doing? DMSO kills the bacteria, and your H2O2 will actually explode these magnetite crystals. It does, and I've shown videos of that as well, which I thought these were fibers from the sky, and I was like, they're iron doped or metal doped. I know now, magnetite dope will respond exactly the same. They oxygenate nearly immediately, and that's why you'll get tingling when you do your ears. You'll hear crackling. That's magnetite crystals breaking up. It'll also affect the frameworks of the collagens and break them up as well. So the biofilm will get disrupted, and that has a result of, now it's unpleasant doing it, but I'm used to it now, and it's like I actually look forward to doing it because I know the payoff is worth the pain. All right, thank you. Where are we now? And so what we've got here is a number of solutions. What do you change in your diet? Well, it all explains why certain things work better than others. Eliminate your refined carbs. Get rid of your sugars, your seed oils, your alcohol. Everyone knows that those things don't help, do they? The sugars, right? The sugars are the worst. Okay, it feeds on them. The bacteria feeds on the sugars. This is why sugar makes things worse. All right. What do you want? You want olive oils. Don't use seed oils. Olive oil. I use so much olive oil, and I'm greasy. I'm a wog, so I like my olive oil. All right, so sue me. Leafy greens, grass-fed meat, fermented foods. I always start the day with big tablespoon of the vinegar. What do you call it? Apple cider vinegar. That stuff's good shit. I always start with the acids in the morning, bases at night. You know, you keep your acidy foods for the morning, right? That's when you want that stuff. And it also alkalizes your body, right, to reduce acids in the body, which is great. So acids in the morning, reduce acids in the body throughout the day. All right, so like citrus, and that's your vitamin C and all that stuff. So high glycemic foods feed bacteria. Pro-inflammatory foods amplify fiber production, right? Sleep optimization. Obviously, we get as much sleep as we can as targets, so try and do that. Keep your room not over hot if you can. The heat helps this all breed, right? So in the winter, I'm in the winter at the moment. You guys are in the summer. You're in a heat wave. A lot of people over in Europe and stuff. I know that. So you do what you can, but I guess showers and cold showers and that's probably good. Um, yeah, keep your stress down. Stress allows it to take hold more. Get out of Wi-Fi. Get out of your signal areas. All that stuff. It's all obvious. Um, the H2O2 I've told you about. DMSO is good for breaking up the stuff on the skin, and I found that as well. So I get these build-ups in my ears; they just keep growing back, and I use DMSO and get that on there, and then a bit of H2O2 spray, and just rub that in, and all those they immediately just break up, and so I get this big like build up here, like and here and it immediately cuts through it, even if it's under the skin. And so you'll find the same thing on your skin here. If you've got arms, if you've got little lumps that are occurring under the skin. So what I think they are biofilm buildup. And so just get your DMSO, you rub it in, and it'll break that stuff up. So that's a good way to get rid of those biofilms. Strongly recommended. You can use essential oils with it as well. So oregano, which I'm getting to. The treatment I'm going through at the moment, to get rid of bacteria, you generally want to use a antibiotic, right? But I know a lot of people have trouble with trust in the medical establishment after what they've been through. What I'm doing is trying to use a natural alternative, and one of the best antibiotics you can get is oregano oil. Oregano oil. You can take this in doses, like I'm taking at the moment my protocol. I use a teaspoon of DMSO 99 in water, stir that through, and then I put my oregano oil, about 1 milligram, 700 milligrams to 1 gram, 1,000 milligrams, and I do that twice a day. 1 teaspoon of DMSO that helps it soak into the body and disperse throughout it better, plus your oregano oil. And I'm just taking that orally, like shot, and it's fine. And it settles the stomach, like, because I think all this crap was, it's in the body as well as the skin. And so, and I'm finding a lot of my symptoms have dropped away. A lot of them are dropping away. I've been doing this probably for 2 weeks now. And I've slept better. I am getting less feelings in the body. And now what I want to do is couple this with the sauna. So get to the sauna and like spend a good hour in there, maybe 2 to 3 times a week. I know saunas, if they need to be hot enough, and infrared saunas, like where you're actually heating up the body, that can go through the skin more. So the problem with saunas, wet saunas, is they tend only to heat the outer layer of the skin, whereas this is deep into the dermal layer. So I think infrared saunas could actually be, if they're heating internal, like heating the skin, then they could be better, but they need to be over a certain temperature. I'll try and put that information in the article. So I'm going to put everything I've spoken about today will be in the article. All right. So there's a few little tips for you. So the oregano oil is huge, the DMSO is huge, H2O2, they're all useful. So it's funny, all these solutions that I've seen coming up through what I've gone through, and like looking at it from, it's a nanotech angle. Yes, no, yes, it doesn't matter. The thing is, what's worked for me, it's now been confirmed by this concept of an angle of synthetic biology. The proof of my infection of synthetic biology being a fungus that produces collagen, keratin, magnetite-based fibers is that I find these fibers. I can find them at any time. I can pull a heap of them off my body at any time because my skin is infected with this. All right. So the aim is to try and reduce that, and that reduces your sensations because these piezoelectric elements on your skin make you targetable. They can make any sensation anywhere on your body once it goes through your body. How else do they proliferate our bodies with these elements that allow this? Synthetic biology. It's a much better, elegant solution. It's not elegant, it's dirty. It's a filthy solution because they are filthy people that have done this. But they don't want this out. They've attacked me every time I've tried to do articles. And I haven't been able to write because I've produced all this research, but they've hit me. It's just been so, the machine's just been whenever I've tried to actually put this shit out. So I just decided, screw it, I'm doing a video today because I can't be bothered trying to actually sit here and type it out, even though I've got a lot of articles that they need work. But I will paste my notes from today so that you've got a record of it, which gives a few suggestions on treatments and so on. Cool. I think this has gone for long enough. I'm sure I've forgotten a lot of things, but I strongly recommend that you look into oregano oil, DMSO, and H2O2 to help treat your condition if you have the same fibers as I do, which I suspect a lot of people do. It's just that most people don't go out of their way to actually check. And it's literally a 5-minute check. Think about it. So you can just get yourself a simple little microscope for $50, $100, whatever. It takes, like I said, cotton ball, rub your skin, look at it under the skin. If you've got these fibers, you've got a bacterial infection. All right, thanks, guys, which allows the establishment to read your mind. All right, lots of love to you all, and out.